It's Monday, guys. That means it's time for a Halo Q&A. So for those of you just joining us, the rules are very simple. All you have to do is leave your Halo-related questions in the comment section below, and maybe they'll be answered on next week's show. So we're going to kick this week off with a question from Super Smiley Guy 345, who says, Halo Q&A. What is your opinion on Hannibal? We have Oni in the UNSC, but now we have this new company, Hannibal, which makes lasers and railguns, and we don't know anything about them, so I think that they should be expanded upon. This could be a whole new level of depth in the universe, plus this would be a good excuse for new weapons and vehicles, like the Hannibal tank, Wasp, and Mantis. So Hannibal was first introduced in Halo 5, and basically it's like, okay, one of the new wreck things is called a Hannibal Scorpion, and it shoots lasers instead of tank rounds, and I assume at 343 probably what just happened is they were like, look, we made a yellow Scorpion and it shoots lasers! And then they were like, well, what are we gonna call, I guess, the Hannibal Scorpion? And we'll probably come up with some lore excuse for why it exists. And they probably came up with Hannibal as like this company, oh, you've never seen them, but they're the ones who are making all these repainted UNSC vehicles that shoot lasers instead of regular things, just so we can have creative vehicles to put in our sandbox. So as for the lore behind the Hannibal weapons manufacturing company, there isn't really much to it. It's just like they are this weird, creepy, secretive weapons manufacturing company, and they specialize in just these weird experimental weapons, kind of like what we saw with the Hannibal Scorpion, the Hannibal Mantis, the Hannibal Wasp and stuff. And recently, actually, in Halo's universe, they acquired the rights to actually begin producing their own Mjolnir armor. If I remember right, it's the Rogue armor set, and as of right now, within the Halo universe, kind of before the events of Halo 5's ending and stuff, back when the galaxy was kind of like, everything's fine, there's no dumb, AI uprising or whatever, there was that terrorist attack on that human city in Halo Nightfall, the one where the hilarious-looking cartoon CGI elite sets off that bomb thing. And it kills a ton of people, and basically the Office of Naval Intelligence flagged Hannibal weapon systems for review, and in the lore community, I've seen some theories that maybe the reason Oni is just kind of like, well, why are you... why are you investigating them? People are suspecting maybe it's just Oni trying to get the rights back for the manufacturing contract on the Spartan armor, because it's no, only us, only we can manufacture Spartan armor, just so that you don't see outside competing companies creating their own Spartans and stuff like that. It's rather interesting. And I think that going forward, if Hannibal were to become some kind of mainstayer in the Halo series, instead of just oh, look, it's an assault rifle that we painted yellow and blue and it shoots lasers now because we tweaked the coding a little bit, I would like to see full-fledged, modeled and detailed Hannibal weapons, because it does feel a little bit okay when it's look, it's a yellow assault rifle, but it's called the Hannibal assault rifle, and this is the lore behind it, and you're just sitting here but it is just a yellow assault rifle that I can use in Warzone. Maybe Hannibal can be used as an excuse for wacky, weird weapons in the Halo games. I think of something kind of wow, this is unique and creative, like the Halo 4 grenade launcher, or the beam rifle from Halo Reach. Obviously, that's a Covenant weapon and stuff, but basically, in the Halo games, if 343 wants to have these really out there weird weapons that they're this could be kind of cool in the Halo sandbox, but how do we put it in a Halo game and make it not feel out of place? Well, just okay, here's the super weird weapon of our game, and the reason it's super weird is because it's made by this creepy Hannibal weapon manufacturer. And ultimately, I hope that answers your question. So we're going to move on to Louis Philippe, who says, Q&A. Now that Halo Wars 2 has come out, do you think we could see more Halo spin-off titles in the next couple years? Not just Halo Wars, but other genres as well, like an MMO where you pick a class like Spartan, Marine, etc., and go out on adventures and missions all over the galaxy, meeting characters like Arbiter and Chief. Tell me what you think and keep up the great work. I think with where Halo is currently, some kind of crazy experimental MMO spin-off game would not be the wisest choice, just because 343, in the eyes of the public and like your general gaming audience, is still struggling to even make like a solid mainline Halo game. And then you've also got to consider kind of not getting too crazy and out there with the Halo IP. Because from an outsider perspective, obviously us Halo fans, we'd probably like something like that. We'd think it's awesome. But from an outsider's perspective, they could see it as like, oh, Halo, that's like the shooter that I grew up with. And now they're making like an MMO and they have mobile games and, oh man, tabletop games. And oh my god, all this stuff. Like Microsoft is just milking the Halo series. Like, they've got to play it safe with how they experiment with outside titles. They've got to be very careful that they don't kind of give off the impression that they're just like, Halo everything, we got a Halo MMO, we got a Halo 2D side-scroller, we've got a Halo platformer, we've got a Halo breakfast cereal. They don't want to come across as just soullessly milking the Halo series. And then also something else to consider is kind of like, how financially viable would that be right now with where Halo is? Frank O'Connor on some post a while back, if any of you guys can find it, like, thank you, I haven't been able to find it, but basically someone was like, would the Halo 3 anniversary, is that going to happen? And Frank O'Connor said, to be honest, no, because Halo is seeing diminishing returns, and so putting a lot of effort into doing a Halo 3 anniversary it just would not be worth the investment right now. And that is a very realistic concern for them, because with 343, their main focus is the Halo games, the mainline Halo games. That's what they're doing. Right after Halo 5, they immediately got to work on Halo 6. Their entire team is devoted to one game at a time, so when it comes to spin-off games and stuff, those are usually outsourced, which is why you see gosh, I forgot, it's Iron Something that did the Spartan Assault, Spartan Strike mobile games, and then Creative Assembly, it was outsourced to them, the Halo Wars 2. And then for the MCC, that was outsourced to like a ton of different studios. And MMOs are also really expensive to make, and then you gotta market them, and you have to find some studio that you can outsource the game to, and then while 343 is working on Halo 6, they've gotta collaborate with this studio that they've outsourced an MMO to make sure like that the game falls in line with kind of Microsoft and their vision for the Halo series going forward. And then something also to keep in mind is Microsoft doesn't want to oversaturate the Xbox brand with Halo, because they do have other IPs, and they don't want it to be like, this is our Halo box, and also like sometimes we poop out a Gears of War game or something like that. No, they want to be like, oh my god, we have so many games, so many different exclusives, look at us. So ultimately oversaturating the market with Halo games and Halo spin-off titles and all this and that and this and that would take away from some of their other release plans that they want to put a spotlight on. So personally, I would love to see some kind of Halo MMO, but realistically, I'd prefer if Halo played it a little bit safe for right now, especially with the just insanity of Halo 5, the way it pretty much released unfinished, the MCC being broken, just like shockingly broken, and then also the Halo 5 story, and just what a calamity it is, what nonsense it is. Like, I'd prefer if Halo did kind of like what Halo Wars 2 did, where it's like, that's a very safe bet. It's a sequel to a cult classic RTS on the previous generation. Just play it safe. Let's see how Halo 6 is. And if Halo 6 is really good, then maybe we can begin looking at like other ideas for the Halo series, possible spin-offs or something, but we don't want to go too crazy right now. We gotta play it safe with the Halo series right now. So I hope that answers your question. We are going to move on to John117, who says, man, you seem to be more polite to 343 in the recent months than you were in the older days. What actually changed some of your opinions? Anyways, I hope you see it and give an answer. Good job anyways. So when I went to 343, I was able to talk to a lot of developers and meet some really awesome people and just kind of absorb information and understand the climate there and how video games are made and the different hoops that you have to jump through, and just understanding the development process by being able to talk to the people who actually build the games there. And so it it allowed me to understand a little bit better the process behind making a massive AAA game with a big publisher and investors and all this stuff. One guy that I talked to while I was visiting 343 described it like, there's always a bigger fish with making a AAA game. There's always deeper reasonings behind certain things that go on. Like for the developers, they've got to like kind of, one guy says, hey, why don't we do this? Because this is a better decision. It's like, all right, like let's go tell our boss, and the boss will bring it to the higher ups, and the higher ups will be like, okay, we'll talk to Microsoft and the investors, and then Microsoft and the investors will be like, okay, like we see where you're coming from, but for us, like, our investors have a lot of money in this game, and our focus groups show that like this is selling really well with kids, and the thing is, you gotta make this money because we gotta please the investors. And it just keeps going, and it gets deeper and more complex, the different politics surrounding choices made in gaming and stuff. So when criticizing a game, it's really important that you kind of speak their language. When proposing things, you want to say, this is why I think it would actually be a lot smarter if Halo were to do this. I can understand why these choices were made, and I see why they would look good on paper, but consider this point of view and stuff. That way 343 can say, like, that's actually a pretty good criticism, the way that they worded it. We can actually bring this to the publisher and the investor because it speaks their language, and they'll say, oh, like from that point of view, yeah, we probably would get more money if you did this and this and this. So you've got to be specific, you got to be smart about your criticisms, but you've also got to understand the opposing point of view. When I talked to Jeremy Cook, the lead artist of Halo Wars 2, about my art style video on the Spartan armors and stuff, and why I feel that the new armors don't look very good, he was saying something that I appreciated is that in your video you were actually speaking like our language. It was something understandable. It wasn't just complaining on a forum or something. It was something that we could analyze and actually say, like, this is actually, this makes a lot of sense. So remember, when you disagree with a lot of the choices made, as I do with Halo 5, you've got to meet them halfway. You got to understand maybe what they were thinking so that you can speak their language and say, but if you do this, it would actually be a lot better. And so ultimately, I hope that answers your question, man. So we are going to move on to Pepsi Kid Fox 3, who says, Q&A, do you think Forge and custom games will have guardians again? Like maybe a Kraken can shoot you down, or the mines from Sand Trap, a wall of Prometheans or elites that'll kill you, like a minigame to get cool vehicles and stuff. Keep up the good work. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about, basically past Halo games made by Bungie had like these environmental hazards where if you left the map, something would kill you, and then the little text in the kill feed would say you were killed by the Guardians. And they're not talking about the giant space owls or whatever. It's just like, it was like this weird thing. It was like, what do you mean by the Guardians? Like on the map Sand Trap, if you were to leave outside of the map, there were these like massive towers that surrounded the map, and they would shoot a little beam to where you were standing, and it would cause a landmine to jump up and detonate in your face, killing you. And that was basically why you couldn't leave the map, because these giant towers would spawn these landmine things that would kill you, and it would always say you were killed by the Guardians. Or the map Sandbox, if you were to leave the outskirts of the map, the giant towers would straight up shoot you with their lasers, like not even spawn a landmine, they just shoot you. And so the thing is, well, it may seem trivial, and it's like, oh, come on, that doesn't matter. I'm in the middle of a Slayer match. I'm not going to focus on weird stuff going on outside of the map. They did, in my opinion, give the maps personality, a lot of personality that current maps are lacking. Like 343's maps are very pretty. They have a lot of really pretty sandboxes or skyboxes and stuff. Like I think of the rig in Halo 5, where if you were to stop and just look outside of the map, like, wow, this is really cool. But could you imagine if instead of jumping off the rig and then just dying in midair as you fell, maybe there was some kind of outside reason why you would die, like there was some kind of automated turret defense system that would just like gun you down if you jumped off of the rig that you were fighting on. Just something to give the maps a little bit more identity, a little bit more personality to them. It's not important ultimately at the end of the day. It really is not important. It's just a small little detail, but I do think it would go a long way with giving the maps of current Halo games a bit more personality. And now we are going to close this Q&A off with a question from Christian Brinkman, who says, Halo Q&A. what would be your thoughts about the Iso-Didact returning in Halo 6? Now, I'm not completely versed in all of Halo's extended lore, but it is to my understanding that since he fired the array from the Ark, he's still alive. Maybe he could return in Halo 6 or another Halo title to aid humanity against Cortana and the Created as a foil for how the Iso-Didact tried to compose and eradicate humanity. Just a thought. So if you guys don't know who the Iso-Didact is, okay. Story time. Basically, Forerunners, like the ancient Forerunners, they did not mature and grow in the same way that humans grow. The way that they go through maturity and puberty, it's a little bit different. Like, they're not just like, oh, look, it's a tiny human, and the tiny human turned into a regular-sized human over the course of their life. The way it happens is the Forerunners have a caste system, so it's like, you're born into this family, so you're gonna be like a sanitation worker, you're gonna run a coffee shop. Like, that's basically the way that their society worked. Like, you're born to build things, you're born to fight things or something, and what happens with a Forerunner is, when a Forerunner child reaches a certain age, they will take a DNA imprint from their parents, and basically their body will begin to mutate into their parents. Like, they will just be like a clone of their parents, and they will have the same body structure and stuff. That way they can continue kind of their caste. So it's like, for me or something, instead of just like having all the crazy stuff that a young boy goes through during puberty, it's like, oh, Dad, I'm 12 now, can I have your DNA? And then it's like, wah! And just like over the course of the year, I mutate into an exact clone of my dad. And then I go to work and have the same job as my dad, and he eventually dies, and I have a kid, and then my kid, when he reaches 12 years old, he's like, hey, can I have some of your DNA? And I'm like, sure, here you go, son. And then my son will, like, mutate into a clone of me. Like, it's really weird and screwed up, but that's the way that Forerunners kind of grow up and mature. They're just like, they take DNA from their parents, and they become like replicas of their parents. And so the Forerunner trilogy of novels that kind of documented the final days of the Forerunner civilization before they activated the Halo rings, it followed a little Forerunner who was born into basically a builder family. Like, he was supposed to eventually become like a builder and, just create things. But instead, he actually took DNA from the Didact, the same one from Halo 4, and so he, turned into another Didact. And so, in order to make it less confusing, they called him the Iso-Didact, and the one that we saw in Halo 4, that's the Iso-Didact. Basically, this Iso-Didact, he's the one who pushed the red button and activated the Halo rings. But when it comes to the lore, what happened to him is, because he was outside of the Milky Way galaxy when he pushed the red button, he was on the Ark. So he activated the rings, the galaxy was wiped clean of all life, and so it's like he's just sitting there and he's like, oh, okay, well, that's done. And he just lives out his final days and dies. And that was, as far as I understand, the story of the Iso-Didact. He's dead as far as I know. So personally, for me, I would love to see the Iso-Didact survive somehow, for them to come up with some reason for how he survived. Obviously not as dumb as, the reason Cortana came back from the dead in Halo 5, finding, the Fountain of Youth for AIs, now I'm gonna take over the galaxy with my dumb space owls. But I don't know, because I'm one of the people that really liked Halo 4's story and the way that it included the expanded universe and stuff, and that being said, I can understand why some people thought it was really dumb that they had to basically do their homework and read a bunch of novels that they weren't very interested in order to play a shooter game and understand its campaign. That being said, some people didn't read the Forerunner trilogy, and they said they could understand the campaign fine, and they really liked it. But in the case of Halo 4, I feel kind of like the majority spoke, and as a result, we had Halo 5 that was a disaster. It didn't know what it wanted to be. So with 343's kind of current stance of we want to separate the books from the games so that gamers who just want to play the campaigns don't get confused, I can't realistically see the Iso-Didact returning in the games, as sad as it is, because I really like that character and I'd like to see him come back, but, Oh well. And so that answers all the questions, guys. So my question to you at the end of this Q&A is, if you guys were to point to any Halo level in any of the Halo games, like just one level, and you said, that embodies what I love about the Halo series and stuff, like this is like a perfect representation. It can be for any reason. Like, I think the art is great, it captures what I love about Halo, or the music is or the enemy encounters are fun, the weapons on the level are a lot of fun to use. Like, just point to your favorite Halo level that you think embodies everything you love about the series, and kind of tell me why you think that way. So guys, I will see you all on the next video, and have a good Monday.